Hey, yo, what up? I'm Josh Martinez of Z100, New York's #1 hit music station and the Superstar crossover on iHeartRadio he's basically a friend of the show at this point.
I am.
Tony Khan, what's up, man?
Hey, thank you, Josh. You're a friend of AEW. I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's great to see you, and it's great to be on the show with you talking about AEW. We've got Wednesday Night Dynamite coming up this Wednesday, 8 p.m. on TBS, live at 8. Also, you can stream it live on HBO Max. We're on every Wednesday, HBO Max and TBS. Also coming up Saturday, it's going to be AEW Collision on TNT and HBO Max. We do every Wednesday on TBS and every Saturday on TNT, and now the shows are simulcast on HBO Max. And you have been around AEW for many, many years, since long before we did this simulcast. You've been an AEW supporter, but we're making all kinds of new fans, and AEW's having a really great year now in 2025. So thank you for having me in the studio to talk about the shows.
Of course, man. So how important has the transition to the live streaming on Max been to the AEW brand as a whole on a global scale?
It's a great question. It's been a really great year. It's been the best of both worlds because we still have the great audience on cable every Wednesday on TBS, every Saturday on TNT. But we've grown so much because we're also simulcasting. We're reaching a new audience. A lot of young fans and fans who've cut the cord, people of all ages, are using streaming, and HBO Max is a top streaming service with, I think, the very best content, the best shows and movies. And we're on the sports page for AEW. And AEW, where we're the best wrestle, we have the best wrestling, and our TV shows are on HBO Max now, in addition to being on these channels that have such a great history of pro wrestling. A lot of people that are listening know there's a great history of wrestling on TBS and TNT, and AEW, we've been able to bring that back. So this Wednesday, you can check out the show. We were having a really successful year with the ratings, the audience. AEW is doing really well, and the shows have been really fun. So you can catch AEW this Wednesday at 8 p.m., you can catch Collision this Saturday at 8 p.m. But also, like you said, it's been really important to have the simulcast because there's a lot of fans as media's transitioning that are exclusively streaming or spending a lot of their time watching streaming compared to cable because, like I said, the great history of wrestling on TBS and TNT. But growing up, those were kind of the best options to watch wrestling. Now there's so many options for media, and a lot of people are watching streaming. So being on a great streamer like HBO Max, it's huge for AEW, and that's one of the reasons we're having such a great year this year in 2025.
And November 22nd, you guys are coming back to Newark. I believe it's like the third year in a row that Full Gear will be at the Prudential Center.
Third time in 4 years.
Okay, third time in 4 years, okay.
And we're 2022, 2024, and we're back for 2025. It's one of the best and biggest AEW shows every year. I think it's one of the most consistently great shows every year, and this has been maybe the most consistently great AEW year. So I think that bodes really well for Full Gear, which is coming November 22nd, back here in this market. It'll be in Newark at the Prudential Center where the Devils play. It's a great venue that's hosted AEW Full Gear and great shows before. It's where we had our first ever Dynamite on TBS, and I came and saw you then.
Yep.
And we've had a lot of great shows there over the years, and the tickets go on sale soon. It's right around the corner. Yep. It's actually the day after the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. The pay-per-view's coming up. You can order it on Sunday, August 24th. It's going to be an afternoon show, Sunday afternoon, August 24th. My last Sunday afternoon pay-per-view for a while with football starting up.
That's right.
I get very busy then. But it will be tickets on sale for Full Gear here Monday, August 25th. You can sign up early for the pre-sale, but Monday, August 25th, the tickets go on sale. And there's going to be great demand for the seats. It's going to be a packed house. I love coming here. I'm sure I'll see you again closer to the show around the Thanksgiving holiday when I do that media rounds. But it's going to be an exciting time. We also have a lot of great shows coming up around Philadelphia in the 2300 Arena, formerly known as the ECW Arena when I was a kid. Actually, it'll be the first time I've set foot in the ECW Arena, now known as the 2300 Arena, in Philadelphia since I was 13 years old with my dad in 1996. So it's been, at this point, actually, it was 29 years ago this past week.
Okay.
Was the last time I was in there. So it's going to be great to go in there over 29 years later for several shows. Look, if you're going to be in Philadelphia or around Philadelphia, check out AEW in Philly. And August 25th, you can buy your tickets, or anytime after that for the November 22nd AEW Full Gear pay-per-view. And definitely check out the shows this week, because AEW is having a hot run of great shows. For AEW Dynamite Wednesday at 8 p.m., TBS and HBO Max, and AEW Collision Saturday, TNT and HBO Max.
So you guys recently have been setting kind of year-over-year highs with the ratings on Dynamite. What do you contribute that recent success to?
I think it's a combination. A lot of things have to come together, and the environment for AEW is really great right now. And I think it's most of all due to a combination of the wrestlers are really delivering. We've got a great group of wrestlers. AEW is where the best wrestle. We have the best wrestlers, and we have a fantastic staff and great fans watching the shows every week. It's really helped having this great roster, and the stars have aligned really well. I think it's been great timing to have MJF back, coming off the success of Happy Gilmore 2. And he filmed the movie. He came back. He's been very active and involved, and that's been fantastic. And this year, Kenny Omega also returned, had a great run as the AEW International Champion and some fantastic matches before his comeback story was derailed in the epic match at AEW All in Texas with Kazuchika Okada, who unified the International and Continental Championships. And certainly Jon Moxley's reign as the AEW World Champion was fantastic before he was derailed by Hangman Page. Really, things could have gone either way between Hangman Page and Will Ospreay at Double or Nothing, which was a fantastic show. Hangman Page came out on top in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament final, got the shot at Mox, and after months and months and months, the better part of a year of Mox reigning on top, holding the championship hostage, dominating everybody, and Mox holding the title in a briefcase, which really, in the end, accomplished, in many ways, everything Mox set out to do. It made AEW a greater, better company, and it made the heroes of the company band together and fight even against each other to prove who was the best, sharpen each other, until one man rose up and took down Mox, which was Hangman Page, the new world champion.
It's always great. Like, the greatest heels are the ones that are telling you the truth, that are telling you what's going to happen, but you just don't want to accept it. And sure enough, to your point, everything Moxley said since winning the AEW title, since putting it in the briefcase, and I got to give you guys credit, the little nuance and details of leaving the Danielson side plates on the titles to show. Moxley took it from him, put it in the briefcase, and literally never opened it, never showed it for all those months later as champions. I think you guys deserve a lot of credit for that entire storyline. As a fan, sometimes we were left questioning things. And I will say, I think that fans get very impatient. We have an idea, you go the opposite direction, and now, we hate it, right? And then we're going to go on Twitter and we're going to complain about it. We hate it. But you guys did a fantastic job. Was Hangman kind of the end goal the entire time, or was it we're literally going to see who does rise up amongst this core group of young talent that we have?
I think I had key ideas, and even looking back to when you saw there was a group of challengers that took on Mox, Hangman was in a totally different place. We were up here doing shows at the Hammerstein Ballroom after Full Gear last year and had a great series of events around the holidays, and Hangman Page going into World's End was one of the challengers who came up and battled Jon Moxley going into the big four-way match. We had so many great wrestlers step up along the way. Darby Allin, who's now just recently returned from Mount Everest, climbed Mount Everest, first wrestler ever to do that and plant the AEW flag. And Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, Jay White, who we love in AEW, he's been out injured. He's somebody that would very much be in the AEW plans. Jay White being out injured, that, of course, changed things. But he was one of the people that was after Mox right away. And then, of course, Hangman back then. And Hangman took a long journey to find himself and rise up and become a hero again after he took a dark path. And then we saw these great challengers like the Rated R superstar Adam Copeland, Swerve Strickland, who got derailed when the Young Bucks made a return to AEW. And then Hangman and Will Ospreay had to battle to see who would go on to go to All In Texas and have that huge opportunity to go in front of the biggest crowd AEW's ever had, and it was this year at Globe Life Field in Texas. It was, I think, our best show ever. Hangman Page took the world title. Hangman Page was the one who stepped up and was the right answer. So there was this vision from the beginning. Jon Moxley, the great AEW star, Bryan Danielson's best friend. After Bryan won the title finally, he was living on borrowed time. We knew Bryan Danielson was very injured, but he overcame everything for his family. And it meant a lot to me as somebody who loves wrestling and loves Bryan Danielson very much, first as a fan going back many years, and then working with him as a friend and working together and as his boss. I love Bryan, and I think he's one of the greatest wrestling stars ever and one of the best humans I've known. And it meant a lot. He's very selfless. He wouldn't have been the person to ask ever for a moment like that. He never would have asked to be a champion or have the show built around a moment for him. But to have a great world champion like Swerve Strickland, who had beaten so many top stars along the way, like Samoa Joe, Christian Cage, and Will Ospreay, of course, at Forbidden Door last year. And then to have Swerve Strickland's great reign end by Bryan Danielson overcoming everything and like I said, living on borrowed time, pulled off what to him he said is the biggest and best win of his career, to have the best moment he ever had to win the AEW World title finally after all those close calls, including up here against Hangman in the same building we're going to be in the Prudential Center. And to have Bryan Danielson finally win the world title, that was like a really amazing thing. And then to have it completely ripped away from him and betrayed so violently by his best friend, Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley, the most beloved fan favorite, the most hardworking hero from day one of AEW, arguably the top fan favorite hero from day one, to have him become such a dark villain and to do something unheard of to betray Bryan, and then take such a dark path with the Death Riders and kind of the zombie of what had been the BCC.
Yep.
And then to have Bryan Danielson go out the way he did, it was really great. But then it made it all that much sweeter when Bryan Danielson returned as part of the group along with Darby to help make sure the Death Riders did not stop Jon Moxley from capturing. To stop Hangman Page from stopping Jon Moxley, and to stop Hangman Page from capturing the title as he did. I thought it was one of the greatest days in AEW's history, and I definitely think it was our best pay-per-view show ever. And so many things contributed to it. There was all these great matches, and the Women's World Championship match, that's also been a huge part of, I think, really the TV and the pay-per-view popularity. And then to have the great champions collide at AEW All in Texas, to have the AEW Women's World Champion, Timeless Toni Storm, wrestle the TBS champion, Mercedes Moné. I think they're two of the best wrestlers in the world, and I certainly think they are the two best women in the world of wrestling. And they had one of the greatest matches ever in AEW on probably the greatest AEW show ever on the biggest stage for us ever in this continent. And that was fantastic. Both of them have been a huge part of AEW over the past couple of years. Definitely, I would say, looking back, Timeless Toni Storm is one of our very biggest stars, somebody who came to AEW and has been reinvigorated, and is doing the best work of her career. And I think Mercedes Moné is one of our biggest free agent signings ever. That was a great match. Both of them are a huge part of the popularity also. So we're having a great year, and I think there's a lot of contributing factors. And the men and women wrestling, and also, like I said, we have this great staff that's been doing a great job this year. It's really hard with pro wrestling. It's great because we have such great fans. It's 52 weeks a year. It's the only sport that goes year-round. And to have a staff that travels year-round and works no off-season, they really do it because they love wrestling, and we have a lot of fun. And I think this is the most fun we've had maybe ever, certainly since Daly's Place, since we were all in doing the shows there. And I think it's coming across this year. It feels like we're having a fun show.
I mean, even when there was a rumor that there was this rumor of this MVP not playing well with others over the last couple of days, specifically with Speedball, but then the next day they turn around and make a video for social media where they curse each other out in a clear, playful manner. I think that also shows kind of the growth of what people might perceive AEW to have been back in the day, whether it was issues that did leak over into real life and play out in front of us in real life with, the various performers. What would you say right now is like the biggest misconception of AEW?
I think the stories in AEW have been as strong as ever. The wrestling, people will say AEW is great. I think a lot of people would concede the action in wrestling, the athletic action is absolutely fantastic. Everyone agrees. And also, if you haven't seen the show lately, or if you're just listening to a false narrative, and you can tell me honestly whether you agree with this or not, Josh, I think the stories in AEW have been fantastic this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking a long time about some of the great stories in AEW. And you even just said how fantastic you thought some of the storytelling around Jon Moxley's World Championship reign has been. People even question that aspect of it, and I think that was proven right. But then certainly, whether you love them or not, nobody can question there's a lot of storytelling in AEW. I think it's fantastic, and a lot of the fans who actually pay attention to it think it's great. But there will be people, tell me if you agree with this or not, there's people that would say that there's a lack, and I don't agree with this, I think it's untrue, of stories in AEW. I don't think that's true at all, and it's really, I think, not only a misconception, but a falsehood that people spread.
I think the biggest thing for me as a fan is that whatever time that I invest in what I'm watching, I want to get it back in some sort of a legitimate payback. Like, I want this story to be paid off. I want this first. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm of the mindset where like, it doesn't have to be a happy ending all the time. I just like my payoffs.
Yep.
And I think that this initial success of AEW, like, wrestling fans needed All Elite Wrestling at the time, especially at the time when WWE was arguably in one of the biggest creative ruts they ever were in at that time when you guys launched. And you guys came out and said, hey, we want to be an alternative to wrestling fans. Well, this is what we want. What's the mindset now, finishing 2025 and beyond? You guys have been established for several years now as the number 2 company in the country, arguably on a global scale as well. I would say globally, to be quite honest. You guys, okay, you could also be an alternate, but why can't you be the primary? So what's your mindset moving forward for AEW and beyond?
I think we've had a great year, and I want to focus on AEW and how we can make the shows great every week. And we're just always going from one great show to the next, but also trying to always set up things for the future shows, from Dynamite on Wednesday to the next Wednesday on Dynamite, but also to Saturday on Collision, or from Saturday on Collision to Wednesday on Dynamite, or from, Saturday to Saturday, whatever we have to do. And certainly from pay-per-view to pay-per-view, and the TV set up the pay-per-views, having great matches and great rivalries that build to the next rivalry and match. I think that's really been a focus, but also the wrestlers have really delivered. The team is clicking. It's a lot like a sports team, and it is a sport. And even though they're fighting each other, it is certainly a great collaboration to put out a great wrestling show together from start to finish. And we've been doing that week after week throughout the year, batting such a high average Wednesdays on Dynamite on TBS and HBO Max, and Saturdays on TNT and HBO Max on Collision. The shows have just been consistently great. The fans are very happy with AEW. That's, I think, why there's been the growth. But it takes a team. It takes the wrestlers doing really well, the staff putting on everything it takes to do a wrestling show, which is a huge team effort with hundreds of people working together to put these shows on every week that air, not only having a really successful year here in the U.S., but in England, our ratings have grown. We've built great partnerships overseas, and we're on in 150 countries now.
And pay-per-views are now available on Amazon Prime, which I noticed that. And I was like, this is so much easier than finding all these other apps, because I'm constantly on Prime Video, I should say. So that was huge.
Yeah. And Amazon Prime will be carrying, of course, Forbidden Door coming up Sunday, August 24th, Sunday afternoon.
Thank you.
And that'll be great. And then the next day up here, the tickets go on sale Monday, August 25th, or you can sign up early to get the tickets for Full Gear, which is coming November 22nd back here in this area in Newark for your listeners, and continuing the great tradition of AEW shows, not only in the market, but in that building, the Prudential Center.
So I'm a diehard wrestling fan. We know that. You're also a diehard wrestling fan. You grew up a diehard wrestling fan. So I look at you and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk to him fan to fan real quick, right? And I have a little bit of a complaint for you. Just a little one, all right? So you guys have a deal with Dave & Buster's, right? So pay-per-views are at Dave & Buster's. That's dope. So I can pull up, eat a pretzel stick, have a few beers with the guys. Life is good. But when your pay-per-views go past midnight and Dave & Buster's kicks us out, not the best.
Well,
so that's my minor complaint for now.
That is unforeseen, and it's a great thought, and I really appreciate your insight, and thank you, because it's the first time anybody's ever brought that up, and I think it's a good thought. But here's my silver lining. First of all, the next pay-per-view, nobody's going to have that issue here, because Forbidden Door, August 24th, is Sunday afternoon.
Love it.
AEW All in Texas, best show we ever did. It was just a few weeks past July 12th.
All 6 hours, I was sat in my living room chilling. No problem.
Had you been at Dave & Buster's, it was an afternoon show, so everybody got that whole show. So these afternoon shows, they've been good for that. So that buys some time to readdress that, think of that over. But it's fair. It's a good thought, because I think if you were out when we did Double or Nothing on the West Coast, we were in Phoenix, so the night was young for us.
Yeah.
And the crowd was the hottest they were all night. When we've done some of these West Coast shows and Double or Nothing, historically, most of them have been on the West Coast, either in Las Vegas or Phoenix, out west. So it's early out there. The fans are rowdy, and then usually later in the night, they get hotter and hotter and hotter. The drinks are flowing. The fun continues. So that's fair. Out here on the East Coast, here in New York and all across America, and particularly in this Eastern time zone, that's fair enough. I hadn't really thought about that. You're the first person ever to say it. So thank you, Josh. And as I'm planning AEW events, I'll definitely consider that, sir.
So obviously you run a business. AEW is a business, but you're also a fan at heart. Is there one person that's been able to help you out with the booking and the creative to the point where you have the confidence to say, okay, I'm looking at this from a fan perspective. I got to do the business side of things. This person's going to help me do that.
Well, I do. I work with a group of people consistently. There's been a flow of different people. There's not one continuous person that's ever been there the whole time with me. I have a great group of people in the office that help with things week to week. People do different things. I have a great group of people that are contributing. This year's been really a very good thing. I've tried to get back to more of a philosophy of Daly's Place, where I put the whole outline together basically myself of what I want to do week to week going in, instead of having a meeting and saying, okay, let's all, I run a meeting and let's all pitch ideas for the outline. And I think that's been good. And you let me know if you would agree with this. It seems like it's been very positively received, that people like going back to that model, and they liked it before when I did it that way. It seemed like it was very positively received at the beginning of 2020, going into the original Revolution, when I said, okay, maybe I should just, instead of having 27 people tell me what they think before I put the outline together, maybe I should put the outline together and then come in and say, okay, 27 people, what do you think of this outline? I think this looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go with this, unless somebody has and then if somebody does have a thought, okay, maybe I still have time. And I do take a lot of feedback from different people, but I think it's important that I come in with my one vision, which I think has been a really positive thing in 2025, just like it was in 2020 and then into 2021, which were really well received in AEW, where I came in with one vision of what I want. And that was really well received. And then along the way, I think it's been very collaborative, and it's certainly, I am very collaborative, especially with the top stars and the greatest wrestlers in the world. But I can't put it all to one person. I do think the person that is accountable for this at the end of the day is me. So I have to take responsibility for it. So that's how I see it. And that's why I'm so happy that it's going very well. And this has been the best year. I've certainly always been responsible, but I told myself at Christmas of this year, I was up here for the Hammerstein Ballroom, and I kind of had the same pep talk with myself at the end of 2024 that I did at the end of 2019. And it's yielded the same positive results 5 years later, exactly that it did in 2025, just like 2020, where I said, okay, it's a lot of meetings and there's a lot of people pitching me stuff. And then I put the outline together, and I think I'm biased and I'm hearing too many voices in my head, and I should put the outline together. And just like it was very well received, the original Revolution came off very well this year. started out very good on TV, great year, TBS, TNT, HBO Max for AEW, but also the pay-per-views. Yes, they've been great for years. We've been doing great pay-per-views, and I've always had that vision for pay-per-views and what I want to do month to month to month. That has never changed, but there's so many TV shows, and you can take so many ideas into account in putting a TV show together, but I have to be completely responsible for the TV show instead of letting a lot of people tell me what the show should be, and then I try to decide who I want to listen to, or I'll decide what the show should be, and then we're having, I think, the best year in a long time doing it that way, because instead of just coming in and saying, like, okay, I want to do the pay-per-views, and that's what this is going to be from this month to the next month, and from this month to the next month, and having a big vision, and then saying, okay, from this show to the TV show, well, we could do a lot of things here. And taking all the ideas into account. Better just to take a pen and paper and put the TV shows, and then come in and say, okay, this is what the TV shows are actually going to be too, because that's how important the TV shows are now. It's really important to look, because the economics of wrestling, because we grew up as wrestling fans and have spent most of our lives, both you and I, watching pro wrestling. The economics of the business have changed, and it's actually what brought me into the wrestling business in the first place, truthfully. In addition to being a fan, is I realized that now there's a business model that would work to launch the wrestling promotion that became AEW, because now the TV rights are the lifeblood of a wrestling promotion. The pay-per-view is a huge tentpole thing, and they're still the biggest events individually, but overall, the TV is the lifeblood of the promotion. It's what pays the bills. It's what has led to great salaries for pro wrestlers on top, the people who earn the big wages and are the top stars in the promotions. And primarily, I would say the vast majority of the money that's earned in pro wrestling is earned either in AEW or WWE or internationally. Domestically, it's primarily those two promotions, though.
Sure.
And the top stars are doing great, and it's because the TV rights are so great. And what really helped us, like I said, we've been doing great on TBS and TNT. We got a bigger deal for TBS and TNT, but also adding HBO Max and having these shows that are on TV and streaming every week. It's huge. And it's a lot of work putting 104 shows together, 2 shows a week. But I like doing it. And I feel like I never stopped doing it. I never stopped being accountable for it. But I guess, and I still have all the same people. I kept all the same people. It's not like I'm saying I want to get rid of people or take people's jobs. I just feel like I should put the outline and decide what it is. And then I'll have people come in and I'll hear an idea out, or an idea of how you can add something, or add a promo, or spice something up, or a contribution, or if somebody sees something that maybe I should look at a different way. I'm happy to hear people out, but I'd rather do that after I've already made up my mind what the outline of the format is going to look like. And when you do 104 shows a year, 52 Dynamites on Wednesdays and 52 Collisions, mostly on Saturday, sometimes time shifted for sports, but yeah, it's 104 formats, but I really like doing it, Josh. And, now wrestling, that TV show is so important, even though the pay-per-views are still bigger and I think better than ever. And that's a huge part of AEW and what we do. It's a huge part doing these TVs every week. And that's why I'm so proud we're consistently delivering great shows.
So you talked about like the business model of wrestling being the most successful it's ever been. WWE recently shifted into 2-night PLEs. Wrestle Kingdom was 2 nights at one point as well. I don't know if they did it this year. I can't remember, but I know at one point they did Wrestle Kingdom. In fact, they were the original big event 2-night gimmick, if you will, and then WrestleMania, I believe, followed suit 2021 or 2020 rather. Have you guys considered the idea of a 2-night event, specifically a pay-per-view event? I know you guys did the back-to-back weekends a year ago with All Out and sorry for forgetting.
All In, All Out.
Oh, it's All In, All Out.
Yeah, we did All In, All Out. We did Wembley in Chicago.
Yes.
That was great.
Okay, so that was
those
a week
were
apart.
2 great events. Those are 2 of our best shows. So yeah, I mean, it can be done. I think it's nice having the cadence. I mean, we're doing great this year, so I do like what we're doing. But there's merits to it too, and the scale. I mean, frankly, when people do those 2 nights to open up the books for a wrestling company, whether it's doing those or a residency like the ones we've done in Chicago or the one coming up for anyone in Philly coming up soon in the upcoming weeks, those save a lot of money. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in setup teardown costs. And that you can put that into the wrestling promotion, into the marketing, into the wrestlers, into the hopefully profitability, which is great now with AEW having the new media rights. We are really a much healthier, stronger business. Our revenues are much higher than ever, and it's really exciting because we're a young, growing company that continues to grow the revenues every year. And we've done so well. But certainly when you do like residencies like that or anything that involves staying in the same place, you do save a lot of money. That's one of the nice things too. And definitely, I think that's a good question. But I think we're doing things great with AEW in 2025. We've had some great events. We've opened up some new places. Also had two of the biggest episodes ever, and most biggest audiences of the past year have been, Collision had a top episode for Grand Slam Australia, our first ever event in Australia. And then Dynamite had our biggest audience of the past year. And this isn't even including people on HBO Max, just on TBS, the biggest in the last year, not including the streaming fans. We've had for Grand Slam Mexico, which is one of the greatest things we ever did. We went to CMLL, we went to Arena Mexico, their home, and in Mexico City, we brought some of the greatest stars of Lucha Libre, and I think we made a lot of new fans, and that is one of the biggest Dynamite shows ever. So we've been able to go to new countries. It was our first show ever in Australia, and it was our first show ever in Mexico. And I think that's something we can continue going to those countries and also reaching out to new countries and expanding AEW.
So like we described before, you're a diehard wrestling fan. I just want to pick your brain a little bit, kind of rapid fire style, if possible.
Sure.
Do you remember, what would you say as a fan was like your favorite heel turn of all time? Or at least maybe the most memorable because maybe you loved the wrestler and...
I definitely think for me, and it's a great, great question, and I'm thinking about it because there's so many good ones, and I don't want to leave out because there's a lot of ways you could go with this.
Mm-hmm. And mind you, this is just a personal...
So I was a kid, so it's just if it's really just a personal thing.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of, obviously everyone knows Sting and Ric Flair.
Sure.
And when I was 12 years old, I guess I would have just turned, it was right after my 13th birthday, so I just turned 13, when Ric Flair turned on Sting and formed a new Horseman with Brian Pillman and Arn Anderson, and they turned on Sting at Halloween Havoc. I just turned 13, and I was like so excited about that. It was really, really cool. And I loved Ric Flair, and I was happy to see Ric Flair and Sting as a team, but I really wanted to see Ric Flair be a bad guy. I wanted to see Ric Flair be a villain, be a heel, be the evil guy he was back then on TBS and TNT. So I loved when Ric Flair turned on Sting. I thought that was really cool.
Any one wrestler, dead or alive, at their prime, you can sign them to AEW. Who comes to mind?
And bear in mind, by the way, that was just you said my favorite when I was like a kid. So I'm not saying it was the best. There's so many classic ones. That was just a thing I loved that I watched back then when, like I said, we brought wrestling back to TBS and TNT.
This is the fan Tony Khan that we're talking
I didn't mean
now.
to say that's the greatest. I'm certainly, it's just a thing, when I was a kid when I was a kid watching wrestling, that was the most excited I ever got because I wanted to see Ric Flair be a villain again, even though I was enjoying seeing him with Sting. That's what I really wanted to see was Ric Flair like that with the Horsemen. Sorry. So sorry.
No, it's all good.
You were asking me, sorry.
Prime, dead or alive, any wrestler to sign at AEW. Video game style.
Steve Austin.
So we're talking late 90s Stone Cold.
If you could get Steve Austin in the 90s and just have Steve Austin for the decade of the 90s, he's the greatest ever. He's a great human. I love Steve Austin. He was very nice to me. Haven't seen him in a long time. He was very kind to have me on his show after the original Double or Nothing, and I am one of the biggest fans of his, and I think Steve Austin's the biggest wrestling star of all time. And certainly, if you could pick any era of person, and just if you had Steve Austin with you throughout the 90s, even though his persona evolved from Stunning Steve to Superstar Steve to the Ringmaster to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And if I had ever been fortunate enough to work with any iteration of Steve Austin, particularly in the 90s or early 2000s, I would count myself very fortunate. I'm very fortunate and consider myself very lucky for many reasons, but also lucky just to have met Steve Austin and had a nice chat with him. He actually was very positive about the original Double or Nothing. I did his show after the first Double or Nothing in 2019, over 6 years ago, and he was incredibly positive about the show, and I think he's the greatest wrestling star of all time.
So when it comes to being a fan, I admit 2 wrestling moments actually made me cry, right, in my lifetime as a fan. Before you got into AEW, before AEW was ever invented, because now you have like these personal connections with performers. So taking AEW out of the equation completely, have you ever cried for a wrestling angle or a match?
It was not a wrestling angle. It was matches.
Okay.
I never have cried for, even in the moments of joy, because the greatest moments of joy would be Sting's retirement match would be if I could pick 2 moments of joy, and then the 2 moments, because there's 2 times I did cry from wrestling, but not from anything that really was because of the wrestling part of it. But the 2 greatest ones would be Sting's retirement match at Revolution 2024, Sting and Darby Allin versus the Young Bucks. Maybe the greatest tag team wrestling match ever. Certainly, I think the greatest retirement match ever.
Easily.
Sting undefeated in AEW. You can watch his whole career basically now on HBO Max. He had the greatest retirement run ever, start to finish, from Revolution 21 to Revolution 24. He wrestled for us 3 years. He arrived at Winter is Coming 2020 on Dynamite in December of 2020, then had his first match at Revolution 2021 and wrestled then for 3 years. He went undefeated. I think it was 29-0 in AEW, and he had a match in Japan also, teaming with Darby for the Great Muta's final match there with them. And I have to say, that's maybe my finest day, and it set every business record in Greensboro, North Carolina, and one of our biggest events ever, the biggest Revolution ever, and one of our biggest shows ever, and my favorite thing ever to be able to give Sting the kind of retirement match platform he deserved, and then for him and Darby Allin and the Young Bucks to have that kind of a great match for the great fans.
Sure.
And the environment, everyone just delivered. That was awesome. That was one of the best nights, but I did not cry from that, but that's as happy as I ever came. I didn't cry. I don't cry from joy as much, and I very rarely do cry. But that was a great moment. And then the other one would be Bryan Danielson's retirement match, like I said, at Wembley Stadium All In last year. And again, I didn't cry from that, but I was just so happy, overwhelmed.
I'll tell you what, as a dad, watching Danielson perform in front of his kids, and his kids are on camera, and you guys kept, kind of panning over and stuff, and you could see them in the foreground. 3 years ago, I would have been like, oh, that's cute. That's a nice touch. Now, as a dad to a near 2-year-old girl, seeing like this little girl look at her dad as he performs and stuff, like, yeah, that was one of the matches for me that I definitely cried, bro. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it was incredible. And that's one of the great moments for me. And I didn't necessarily cry from those. I don't really cry from joy. That's just personal. Different people react. But to me, the 2 times I did cry that were related to wrestling, when we lost Mr. Brody Lee and Jay Briscoe. Yeah. And had matches that paid tribute to both of them and their great contributions to wrestling. Jay Briscoe primarily in Ring of Honor, and that's where I worked with him, and then Mr. Brody Lee in AEW, and especially exclusively in Daly's Place. All of his stuff was in the pandemic. That and the stuff we did at QT Marshall's school. QT Marshall, great person who's been in our AEW office for many years, and his school, we hosted the wrestling matches in Atlanta, and that was we did a whole month of TV there in the lockdown, and we also, other than that 1 month, we did almost a year and a half of consecutive shows in Jacksonville, and that's where we were based for the vast majority, Jacksonville, of the lockdown, and all of Brody Lee's matches were then. Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate passing of Brody Lee and Jay Briscoe, those had nothing to do with wrestling in either case. They just both were totally different, tragic circumstances. But those are the only times I really remember crying in wrestling, but not from anything that was because of the wrestling part of it.
So trying to end things on a happier note, if you needed to have an AEW mascot, what would you make it? Would it be an animal?
It would be a jaguar. It'd be the jaguar. It'd be an AEW variation on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like a Jaguars, AEW Jaguars.
Similar to the one that the Jags currently have. Maybe
like
sibling?
a variant. And like like an AEW Jaguars variant.
A cousin.
The clone.
There you go.
Yeah.
If anybody could do cloning, why not wrestling? Someone in wrestling.
Well, I think, you know what? I think you better watch out for that. That could be happening.
There you go. All Elite Wrestling returns to Prudential Center, Full Gear, November 22nd. Tickets on sale Monday the 25th. It's about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
10 a.m. You can get all the info, Ticketmaster.com, AEW.com as well. Very easy site to navigate, by the way, with all the results from previous shows. HBO Max has a bunch of pay-per-view events that you guys have had in the
TV
past.
shows.
And Dynamites as well.
And Collisions.
And Collisions as well. Anything that's on TNT, TBS, the Turner Networks as a whole. Tony Khan, we appreciate you stopping by, dude.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me, Josh. It's really nice to see you. It's great talking about AEW. Hopefully, all of you can check out the shows. We are Wednesday night live on TBS at 8 p.m. or stream it on HBO Max. Saturday night, we're going to be on TNT at 8 p.m. You can stream it on HBO Max. I can't wait to come back up here. Again, don't forget Forbidden Door starts early on Sunday, August 25th. It's August 24th.
Yep.
Sunday, August 24th, early start time. And then early on sale, like you said, Monday, August 25th. Great opportunity for the fans to get tickets for the November 22nd AEW Full Gear pay-per-view. I really appreciate you giving me a chance to talk about the shows and giving me your feedback about AEW. And it's been really just nice sitting and talking about wrestling with you. You have really good insights and very similar tastes and ideas about wrestling and the presentation of the pro wrestling shows to what I think. And you're always such a great, very accommodating host. Thank you for having me on. It's great to be here at Z100. Every time you have me, Josh, you're such a great host. So thanks for having me on to talk about AEW today.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.